Portland getting a 95-89 victory over the Minnesota Timberwolves on the road last night. And for more on last night's game and how this team is adjusting to life without Damian Lillard, we welcome in Trailblazers assistant coach Nate Tibbetts. And Coach, I've got to start with this question. It's January 2nd. It's the start of a new year. So like Michael Holton, do you have any New Year's resolutions this year?
Well, I turned 40 in May. So, it's big birthday. So I got a goal in mind, a weight that I need to get down to. I'm not going to share it just in case I don't get to it. But I think I've got about 132 days to try to get to a certain weight.
All right.
We'll see how it goes.
Without revealing your fighting weight here, how many pounds away are you from your target weight? Are we talking like a pretty big uphill climb, or is this something pretty attainable?
Yeah, I think it's attainable, 12 to 15. So we're good.
Oh, you got that, Coach. You easily
we
got
play
that.
more games like we did last night. It'll be a little easier to attain.
So I want to talk to you about last night, specifically the second half. We saw this team really respond and come back. They shoot 64% in the third quarter. And was there something that happened in the locker room at halftime, or what was the conversation before this team took the court in the third quarter, in which we really saw this game turn around completely?
Well, I think some of it just had to do with making some of the shots. I thought in the first quarter, we really got some good looks. I mean, our defense was pretty much playing at a high level the whole night. And I thought in the second quarter, about the last 4 or 5 minutes, our offense started to affect our defense a little bit, and that can happen when you're not making shots. So we just really challenged the guys, and I think they challenged each other to just kind of try to step up. And, they know that we needed that one coming into Golden State coming up here. And so, I don't know if it was anything anyone individually said. I think just collectively as a group, we knew that we needed to get a little momentum going offensively, and we made 2 or 3 shots early, and that gave us confidence. But like I said, I thought in the first quarter we got really good looks. We just didn't make them.
And CJ goes for a career-high 43 last night. And we were discussing prior to you hopping on about shooting guards getting the green light, the difference between a point guard. For CJ, what's been the communication to him in this point guard role as far as what he needs to do when he's on the court and how it relates to the offense?
Well, I think last night, obviously the first half, we were struggling to score, and I think 2 years ago, him trying to play the point, it would have been a struggle. Last year, he made a really big step, and now with Dame being out, I think he's being more comfortable just with his minutes that he got at that position a year ago. But with Dame and CJ, both those guys, we know they have a lot of responsibility. We need them to score, but they also need to get others involved. And last night, I thought our bigs did a really good job of screening. Minnesota was back in their pick and roll, and CJ obviously had a lot of success and got into a groove. So we needed his points.
It was interesting to watch you guys keep CJ in the middle of the floor in that 2-man game, and Minnesota chose to stay back really the entire night. I didn't think that they changed their coverage. Was that surprising to you at all? The guy is on fire like that, and I'm not asking you to be critical of Tom Thibodeau, but for him to get such a steady diet of opportunities in the mid-range, was that surprising at all to you?
Coach Thibodeau he's known for his defense, and that's kind of what they do. They blew it on the sides, they weak it, they're back. I think at times they tried to move their bigs up. Obviously, they didn't get to maybe the level that they wanted to, and by then I think CJ had hit a good enough rhythm that he kind of had them on their heels and had some success.
Coach CJ made a comment in the walk-off interview, and we opened the show tonight by playing it, where he talked about defensively that you guys were able to stay in your shell a lot of the night. And while you guys have been starting to trap more and extend and apply a little more pressure, particularly on low block situations, staying in your defensive shell, it seems like you guys are able to rotate better and transition offensively, but you seem more active. When you're more active defensively, it looks like you're more active offensively and engaged. Is there a correlation between turning up the heat defensively and offensive rhythm and fluidity?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right on. I mean, I think the more you get stops, I mean, Terry lets these guys play what obviously we call flow, and just kind of five-man motion. We get into drags and different things out of that. But if we're not taking it out of the net, you know, we're playing in flow more, which means we're getting stops. And you know, our guys have bought into some of the changes that we've made defensively, different coverages and things like that. And I think what CJ said was right. I think our weak side has definitely improved over the last, you know, 2.5 weeks. Just with changing our coverages, they have to be more engaged, and you know, now we're getting some steals and getting out and going the other way.
And we've heard Coach Stotts in several of his post-game press conferences mention the different coverages you guys have been throwing at different personnel. How do you determine as a staff what type of coverage you'll throw at somebody, and whether that's doubling them on the wing or doubling them on the block? And then how much time do you guys have to instill that prior to a game?
Well, I mean, as you guys know, the games keep coming. So I would say traditionally a lot of NBA teams try to stay fairly consistent in their coverages. You know, 5-10 years ago, teams probably tried to do switch up coverages more than maybe they do now. It has kind of gotten our guys engaged and made them be more locked in on each and every possession, just for the fact of, all right, let's say we want to get the ball out of Andrew Wiggins' hands, so maybe we're going to show our blitz, or we don't want Towns to feel comfortable on the block, so you know, maybe we'll look to double at times. So depending on whose scouting report is, obviously as coaches we meet and talk about different players and, you know, maybe what are their strengths and how can we take those away. And I think, you know, from there we talk to each other as a staff, and then we present it to the team and come up with a game plan.
You know, Coach, in the pros, you don't see, in my opinion, as much of offensive, defensive substitutions that you see in college. I know that because in college, I was the defensive dude. I had to play the defensive possession. If we got the ball, we called timeout, and somebody else went in and got the shot. But as I'm hearing you guys talk, as I'm hearing you talk about the staff getting together, and I'm hearing Coach Stotts talk about personnel groupings and, you know, doubling certain guys or blitzing certain guys and not blitzing other guys, are you guys also having conversations about defensive lineups and defensive personnel groupings that you guys may start to more intentionally develop?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously where we are defensively, we need to continue to improve. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of conversation of different lineups, how we can help at the defensive end. Obviously, we've got guys that can score, but implementing maybe a defensive guy or two in that rotation would be very beneficial.
And Coach, I want to revisit the fact that you guys have gone 4 games without Damian Lillard in the lineup, and we know clearly for CJ it changes his role a little bit, but who else on the team offensively has had to change or adjust their role to fill the void that Damian has left as he continues to recover right now? Well,
I mean, obviously the first 2 guys you probably want to think of is Evan and AC, just more of a responsibility, probably more time. But I think also the other guy that's getting more of an opportunity to maybe handle a little bit is Mason. Just off of defensive rebounds, him bringing it up the floor. You know, traditionally a lot of times a 5-man doesn't bring the ball up the floor. But as the year has gone on, I think we're getting used to it more. You know, early in the year, guys, wings would be holding back, and now they know that he's a very willing passer. Even compared to last year, he's doing it more and more. And you saw it a lot last night where he got a defensive rebound, and you know CJ's up running, and or Alan Krabs coming into a pick and roll with Mason handling. And so I think between Evan AC and Mason, those guys have all, had to step up their ball handling and decision making with Damian out.
Good stuff. Well, Coach, thanks again for taking time to join us, and best of luck with that resolution as you try to trim things down to your fighting weight this year.
All right, guys. Happy New Year.